Right, we'll see if there are any questions. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And don't forget about this Thursday, 9:30 p.m. We'll be discussing holidays in light of Kitab and Sunnah at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Jazakumullahu khairan. You can sign up for that at HadithDisciple.com. You can also catch and get all of the other exclusive monthly workshops there that we've been doing for some time now there as well. And at this moment, we would like to thank all supporters and patrons of the movement. May Allah Azza wa Jalla accept it from you and make us grateful. And your donations and support are greatly needed and appreciated. And alhamdulillah, from the reasons, after Allah's grace, that we have the ability to offer the different services for free, daily, etc., is because of that. Jazakumullahu khairan. Fadl Hamza.
Can kids lead prayer?
Can a kid lead a prayer? It depends on the kid. And it depends on the prayer. If a kid is of 7, 8, 9, and they know the basics of prayer, they know how to clean themselves when they use the bathroom, their odor is covered, they can lead the prayer. They know the Quran, they can lead the prayer. Okay? Also the dynamic of male and female. A female is not allowed to lead a male in prayer. Ever. Period. Mother, the child can stand with the mother, but the woman is not an imam in the salah. Okay? There are different things and different ways that people do when they want to pray with their child. They make the takbir, but the boy is standing in front of them, so on and so forth, etc. What's important is that as long as the male child is of the basic age of discernment, tamyiz, they know what's going on. They're going to laugh in the prayer, even though some teenage children may laugh in the prayer, unfortunately. Sad reality. Many of our children laugh and joke and giggle in the prayer. Extremely unfortunate. Or scratch and move and itch and jump. They don't pray properly. No matter what you do, you can beat them with a broomstick. They'll still do the same thing. That's the sad reality. Go in the masjid, you see a brother's 17-year-old son, 15-year-old daughter praying like a little simple-minded child. Who's fault? Who's at blame? Allah knows best. All right? What's important is that the 9-year-old or the 10-year-old or the 8-year-old knows that the prayer, you can't just laugh or pick up a phone or pick up a little tykes or a toy or laugh. This is salah. And they know the basics of the Fatiha and the surahs. They know the positions. The odor's covered. And they know how to clean themselves properly in the bathroom. They are allowed to lead the prayer according to some scholars. Now, what prayer can they lead? Can it be fard or just nafil? For sure, the nafil, fard, depends. As long as they do it properly, then inshallah, hopefully it will be valid. And it's not obligatory, but it will be valid as long as it's done what? Properly, with the basics. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Any other questions from the floor? Fadl ya akhi.
So, in recent times, as we come across a lot of people of influence who are bringing up issues that are being said in a way and put in place as though there's a matter of you can make ijtihad on. However, I don't know if it's correct or not. These reputable people, based on the influence they're having, they're speaking about evolution, the fact that we did come from apes and this. Then they talk about the fact that so many issues like that. Then they talk about the fact that the LGBT, it's something, it's becoming very normalized in a way that it's okay, because they're not able to say, oh, there's no specific text of this time, but regular people are getting very confused. So my thing is, we know the fact that if something is haram, which is explicitly made halal, it's forbidden. Something halal made haram is also forbidden. But what about these issues? What do you call to these people? Are they
Crystal clear. With regards to the modern torrent or surge or wave of modern thinkers, modernists, mujtahids, progressive thinkers in Islam, we have to make a new ijtihad. That was 700 years ago, bro. They said that. Was no science back then. Was no medicine back then. Was no NASA back then. Was no UN back then. Was no this back then. That's culture, bro. That's not Islam. That's culture. That's the Yemeni culture. It has nothing to do with the deen. I mean now, etc. What's right, what's wrong, what's our position, etc. In general, it's nothing wrong with refreshing and updating. It's a good thing. It's a needed thing. There's always a need for refreshing and updating and tidying up. There's nothing wrong with that. And there are many different fiqh issues, not all, but many, which need to be updated. And many different issues which need brushing off, and we need to reinvestigate it. Whether it's based off of dalil, this whole issue is based off is weak, aslan, period. Or there's another hadith that they didn't even mention. Or if it's based off of science or medicine, so on and so forth. DNA tests, right? Ultrasounds, blood tests, this sample, fingerprints, blah, 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 yeah? In the court, this amount of witnesses, this person doesn't get punished. If a woman has a child, her husband was away from her, he was in prison for 3 years. He came back from prison after 3 years. She had a child. And she says, this is your Abdullah. So what? What do you mean? You dirty, stinking, blah, bleep, bleep, bleep. You da 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 da. They go to a court. And the Qadi says, Hada waladuk. This is your son. Yeah, shit, how can this be? I was away for 3 years. What do you mean? When was the last time you slept with her? I slept with her a month before I got locked up, blah, 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 blah. This is what? Your son. Al-waladu lil-firash. The child belongs to the owner of the bed. She was upon your bed, right? You can't accuse her of being promiscuous, infidelity, etc. This is your child. Does this ruling remain in 2021 when we can clearly do a DNA test? Science, medical science, can a woman remain pregnant for that amount of time? Blah, blah, blah. You get the point I'm trying to make? So there's some masail of fiqh, which no doubt 800 years ago, 700 years ago, 1,000 years ago were based off of ijtihad. Not ijma' consensus, nor hardcore dalil. So it's nothing wrong with someone coming along and saying we need to reinvestigate and research. But that's something which is scholastic. Not for some jahil ignoramus. Not for some person on his hands and knees walking behind the kuffar asking for scraps. Not for someone who wants to be accepted by the kuffar. Not for someone who wants to be called an academic by the kuffar. La. Not someone who's scared. La, we're talking about someone who's an honest, devout, sincere Muslim who says, I believe that this issue, yahtaj ila i'adat nazar. Bas. It's just that simple. And there are other masail of fiqh which aren't open for ijtihad. And the proof is clear. It's frank. It's right to the point. La yahillu. It's unlawful. It cannot be done. Look at that. Alright? As far as issues of science versus faith versus science, then the same applies. And the concept of faith, blind faith, and science and proof and evidence, that's an ancient war. And people today, Muslim and non-Muslims, or munafiqs, whatever you want to call them, who talk about it and you can't just have blind faith, you have that proof. They need to study the history of science and the history of exploration and the age of exploration. And who were those explorers and scientists and physicists and chemists? Who were those people and why did they formulate the sciences that they formulated? And in 9 out of 10 times, you'll find they only tried to discover the science of light and sound and is the earth flat or round, etc., to debunk the Catholic Church. And to prove that the Catholic Church and the papacy didn't have the almighty power. And that there's science behind this. There's science behind the sun and the moon and the stars and the exploration, etc. And many of those scientists and explorers were atheists. They were godless. All right? That doesn't mean that science is false. And it doesn't mean that we as Muslims don't believe in science. Some of the greatest scientists were Muslims. There's no doubt about that. Mathematicians, and the list goes on. But I'm trying to make a point, is that the war between faith and science originally was based off of rejecting the message of God. That's a fact. All right? And you should study and read about that. Don't take it from me. So you have to be careful when you put more trust in science than you do in Iman. That's the point I'm trying to get to. So some things are needed. It's a need to reinvestigate. That's a fact. Other things, it may not be a need, but it's okay. And some things are off limits. There is no reinvestigation of our faith, of the Quran, of this. La, it's written in stone. And if you want to go research it and think about it, that's fine. But Islam may not be your religion. And there isn't but so far that you can go until you reach the edge and the cliff, the border of Iman and Shak and Takdeeb. That's a fact. And that's because the basis of Iman is unseen. It's not meant to be proven tangibly. It's not meant for every single kafir to have access to it, to see it. And if that's the case, what separates the believer from the kafir? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. That's the name of the game. Pharaoh, when did he believe? He believed only when he what? When he saw the punishment. So therefore, there was no difference, or there was no faith behind his iman. He was supposed to believe like Musa had believed before the punishment was seen, before the Red Sea was split open, before they defeated Pharaoh and outstripped his chariots against all odds. That's when he was supposed to believe Musa, not when he saw the actual punishment in front of his eyes. So it's not but so far you're going to go in science until you leave Islam. That's a fact. It's not but so far. I mean, you can't go far, but what? It's not but so far. And the proof for that is just look at the people who established and made these different systems. 99% of them are godless people. And they argue staunchly is that there's no such thing as such and such. That's hoax. And wars were fought, countries were invaded, crusades, conquest, reconquista, so on and so forth. Muslims killed, Jews killed, Christians killed. They all made atrocities in the name of God. So be careful. That's what I'll say, and I think that's more than balanced. Wallahu ta'ala. Khayr inshallah. We have anything from online?
Yes.
Fadal. Fadal.
Initials MS, Dallas, Texas. What is the ruling on zodiac signs and personality trait tests?
A zodiac sign and a personality trait test. As far as zodiac signs, that is to be avoided. Period. Don't go near that. Reading it, listening to it, let alone believing in it. Period. And only Allah Azza wa Jalla knows the danger and the harm in going near those things. And it doesn't mean that every single thing about a zodiac sign is going to be false. It doesn't mean that. Some things could be accurate. Some things could be, but the danger that includes. And the next thing you know, well, I am a Cancer, I am moody, I am like this, a Leo, Capricorn, blah, 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 Taurus, blah, 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 Sagittarius. You know what? And then it's another step you take. And then the next thing is the what? And the next thing you know, the ancestors look down upon us. And we give them a little bit of prayer. And the cosmos and the moon and such. Huh? What do you mean that the full moon doesn't have an effect upon humans? The human body is 75% water. The waves, the ocean is clearly manipulated by what? Full moon. So why aren't humans? And then you take another step, and a fourth step, and a fifth step, and an almanac. And the next thing you know, bang, Shaitan got you. And you start talking some real crazy stuff about ancestors and spirits and cosmos and energy and the earth and this and people, am I making this up or something? They go far, and next thing they're going, and they don't even realize that they're going. And they say, no, you understand, I'm still a Muslim, it's different, no, it's such and such. They have this bracelet on, right? And then they have this little thingy in their car, and they have this thing around their neck, and this thing on the dashboard, and they have this little crystal thing in their house, and they have that little thingy, and the next thing you know what? There's no place for Tawheed anymore. As far as a personality trait test, then I don't, and my knowledge is limited. I don't think that's necessarily the same as zodiacs. I think that's more pertaining to a human behavior. And Allah surely knows best. Wallahu alam. Fadal Hamza.
What can you do if your principal or your teacher does not allow you to pray?
What can you do if your principal or teacher doesn't allow you to pray? Speak to your parents and have your parents write for you or give for you a letter which they can take to the principal, which will allow you to make your prayers on time. Explaining the necessity of praying on time, especially in the winter, and that you're not going out to smoke a cigarette or to play around, but you're going to pray. You come right back. Any class or anything that you miss, you'll make up, etc. And the parents, they should fight for this. And that's a very unfortunate reality of schools, especially public schools, non-Muslim schools in the wintertime. Is your child making dhuhr every day? Is your child making asr every day? It's dangerous. Especially if you're big and you're grown and you have the ability to, so that's something that has to be done. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl. From online. Fadl, online. You're here. Fadl.
Initials BM, from San Francisco, California. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh. Is it permissible for a Muslim to make cooking videos just showing hands in gloves? Jazakallah.
Wa iyyakum. Is it permissible for a Muslim to make cooking shows showing hands and gloves if the food is good and if you know how to cook? Inshallah ta'ala. Bidnillah.
Question. RB, Philly, Pennsylvania. Is it allowed to gather for a large meal before or after the day of Thanksgiving? Also, the concept of Friendsgiving, is that allowed?
Friendsgiving?
Yeah.
Tayyib. Khair inshallah. At the end of the day, the only reason why Thanksgiving before or after is special is because of Thanksgiving. So just keep it real. Do you normally get together, eat together? If you do, khayran. Sumu yawman qablahu aw yawman ba'dahu. The Prophet ﷺ says about Sha'ban and Ramadan, right? Except, or the Prophet says about Jumu'ah. That's one. Thursday and Friday, or Friday and Saturday. And the Prophet ﷺ also says, no one should yataqaddam, he shouldn't make a precaution before Sha'ban. Illa rajulan kana yasumu sawman falyasumhu. A man who normally would fast Thursdays, 3 days, then there's nothing wrong with fasting on the day in which the people say is or isn't Ramadan, etc. So if you normally get together with your family members and they cook a turkey for 8 hours, string beans, wild rice, cranberry sauce, mac and cheese, this and that, blah, 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 then alhamdulillah. But if you don't do that, that isn't normal, that's not your normal custom, then the only reason why you're doing it is because of the day. Whether it's before or after you're doing it, just keep it real. Be honest. That's not being honest. We get together, we eat all the time. I love turkey. You want a drumstick, you want a breast, you want a slice, you want a sandwich. Next morning, after Fajr, you open up the refrigerator, right? Not only your slippers on, inshallah your pajamas is not under your ankles. Hopefully you don't drink standing up from the fridge. Keep it real, right? That's one thing. But who does that? Who roasts a turkey? And let's be honest. You have turkey sandwiches, turkey wings, baked mac and cheese, turkey wings, right? You may be starving or whatever, but who roasts an entire turkey like that, Abdul Dude? Who? Who do you know? So people oftentimes, they're not honest. That's the point I'm trying to make. You ain't keeping it real. You're just trying to avoid it, but in actuality, you're not actually what? You're not avoiding it. You're celebrating Thanksgiving. Or some non-Muslims say, oh, well, it's not Thanksgiving, it's just a family meeting. Yeah? Why can't we have chicken then? Cornish hens? Or roast beef? Fried fish, duck. Why is the turkey? So just keep it real, man. These are based off of intentions. Be honest. You want to celebrate Thanksgiving? Tafaddal. Go ahead. But call a spade a spade. That's better than playing around and, just come on, man. That's what I'll say. And if you need a turkey and stuffing and gravy and freshly made biscuits to remind you of thanks to Allah, then you're truly miskeen. Wallahi. If that's the thing that makes you thankful of Allah. Puritans, disease-ridden Puritans who came from Europe, natives, indigenous, whatever. If that's what you need to make you realize a shukru lillah, bro, come on, man. Wallahu a'lam.
Next question. RB, Philly, Pennsylvania. Is it permissible to use cat, drug found in Yemen and East Africa and others?
To use qat?
Yes, K-A-A-T.
Clear. Don't chew qat. Don't chew it. Don't sell it. Don't buy it. Stay away from qat. Last check, right? Stay away from it. At the end of the day, scholars have different views on qat. is it a narcotic or not? Some say it's like coffee, some say it's no different than tea or Coca-Cola, etc., etc. My opinion is that when I was in Yemen, you seen people there with no food, starving, not everybody, but many poor people, begging for money. People have no food to feed themselves, feed their families. You take a step down, you go to the cot block or house, whatever you want to call it, and you'll find people standing in lines in droves, waiting to get a bag of fresh green leaves. Where do they get the money from? You ever find a brother outside the masjid selling boiled potatoes from a plastic bag, literally. But he has enough money to do what? To have a big baseball wad in his cheek, chewing the cot. So I've never seen people go crazy like that over coffee. People, they argue over caffeine. Caffeine's a drug, it's haram, it's no different. Okay, you ever seen somebody steal a VCR for coffee? You ever see a woman sell herself and her honor for white sugar? But for other drugs, what? So I think there's a big difference between coffee, sugar, and what? Those other things. That's my opinion. Use common sense. Wallahu alam. Next question.
From online or?
Online.
Okay, online we have no initials, but it's a good question. Tokyo
No,
Japan.
you gotta mention the
No
initials.
initials?
You gotta
Alright,
follow the
gotta follow.
rules.
Gotta put the initials, Mr. Tokyo Japan guy. We have another one. This one's just not a question. Let's move on. HK, Manchester, UK. Chef, is the danger of shirk, al-khafi, included in all acts of internal worship, fear, hope, trust, or is this specific and restricted to showing off al-riyah?
That which is inward is only known by Allah. So if it's inwardly done, inshallah ta'ala, it's going to be an issue of sincerity or lack of sincerity. Period. And the concept of people seeing and hearing, that's what, or that which pertains to shirk khafi, riyah, whatever the case may be, looking to be seen and heard by men, so on and so forth, and the different levels of that. Wallahu alam.
Also, the person also continued typing and said, any books you would recommend specific on this topic?
Not off the top of my head.
Initials EM, Philly, Pennsylvania. Is it permissible for women to go jogging?
A woman can jog. There's no prohibition in Quran and Sunnah against that. As long as she's covered properly, and there's no fitna, and there's nothing which violates any rule, Bismillah.
Okay. Next question.
What's important is women who wear hijab, and they also do things, activities, work, whatever. Ustaqillaha yasduq. Be honest with Allah, Allah will be honest with you. If you want to wear your hijab and cover properly, you can jog, you can work, you can do this, I've seen women do all types of stuff wearing hijab, if you really want to wear it. Whether the hijab is a little higher off the ground, whether you got a slit at the bottom for your feet, whether you have like a workout type hijab, whatever, you get the point I'm trying to make. And if you want to look for an excuse not to wear hijab, I can't do it, my eyelashes are too long for me to wear niqab, or I get a rash if I do this, or my fingertips sweat if I wear gloves, or I can't pick this up, or I can't walk and I keep tripping, then you'll find excuses. But if you want to wear niqab, you want to wear gloves, you want to wear proper hijab, you can do all of that stuff. I know sisters do martial arts. Am I making this up? That'll bust you up and break you down. Wearing what? Gloves and niqab. Am I lying? And there are other sisters besides her as well that are dangerous, right? That'll take care of some strong men, but you'll never see what their skin look like. So don't make weak excuses. Wallahu a'lam.
Next question. RS, Atlanta, Georgia. Is it okay to use philosophical arguments to prove to atheists that God exists when they are hard to convince, like Imam Ghazali's Kalam cosmological argument?
Using a philosophical argument by Imam Ghazali or others in the proper place, the proper time, by the proper person, it's permissible. And the term philosophical, that in itself is a vague term. Philosophy is a vague and oftentimes misleading term. What's important is whatever word or term you give it. Intellectual, the Quran is full of these proofs and evidences. Allah asks rhetorical questions. Allah says, وَضْرِبَ لَهُ, make an example for them, etc. Khairan, but not by everybody. And oftentimes you may try to bring someone or refute someone or use, and you may yourself become what? Misled. And my advice is to read about the lives and the histories of these philosophers. How did they live and how did they die? Were they happy? Or did they have severe mental and emotional imbalances and problems? Read how they lived and what was the result of their philosophy and their studies and thinking about God and creation, etc. All right, so there is a detail. The same applies to using the Bible, using the gospel to call a Christian, not for every Muslim. Some people, certain skills, certain training, yes, but not every single person. And at the end of the day, Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who guides, and the person is going to accept the truth if they want to accept the truth. Wallahu a'lam.
Next question, okay, LDN, I think that's London. Is it necessary to tell a sister that I was in jail, even though it's nothing I believe to be haram? Also, telling if I was married but wasn't consummated as I went to jail and she wanted a divorce.
Telling a sister about being incarcerated or anything else or something like that that you don't feel is haram or wasn't bad, etc. It's best if you tell her, especially if later on she's going to hear about it and want to make a big deal out of it. And if it's something that you don't feel is harmful, it was no biggie, it's not pertaining to your integrity or nothing like that, and it's embarrassing, it's a part of your life, a chapter in your life that you're above and beyond, it's in the past, what's important is being honest, being upfront, being transparent is best, of course. But I mean, we as humans, we all hide things, right? We all have embarrassing moments, things that we don't tell everybody about. And there are levels of trust and love in a relationship. As time goes on, you may reveal more, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Somebody may say, look, I'll get the sister in. What did the brother tell me, Minnesota? He said what? He said, reel them in with Kevin and maintain them with Hawk.
Yeah.
Just reel her in with what? Kevin, and then what? Maintain them with the Hawk. Almost time, yani. Wise man once said, huh? That's a quotable. This is our last question tonight, inshallah.
Last question? Okay. So we have IJ Tokyo, Japan. If an unborn infant who has a soul dies, a child who haven't hit the age of puberty yet dies, will they still be tested or will they be just given Jannah?
Excuse me. Last question tonight is coming from Tokyo with regards to a child dying before reaching adolescence or puberty. Will they still be tested or will they automatically go to Jannah? First and foremost, it depends on to whom the child belongs. If the child belongs to Muslim parents, then it's an automatic given. If the child belongs to mushrik or kuffar parents, then that is a very long argument among the people of knowledge from the Salaf and the Khalaf, the later and early generations. So the general rule is that a child follows his parents and the rulings, freedom, slavery, religion, etc. The child follows his parents. Period. So the children of the believers, those who die from the believers, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, automatic given, be from the servants of Jannah. All right? Means of intercession and hereafter, etc. As far as the children of the mushrikun and the kuffar, that's not necessarily the case according to all scholars. Some scholars argue is that the children of the mushriks will be in Jannah. Period. No tests. Some say the children of the mushriks will be with their parents. Some say they'll be tested on the Day of Judgment. And others say, Allahu a'lamu bima kanu amilin. Allah knows what they used to do. And only Allah knows what's going to take place. So that's a very long argument with regards to that. What's important is Allah punishes no one unjustly. Allah wrongs and oppresses no one. Allah surely knows best. If I said anything correct and right, it's from Allah. And if I said anything which is wrong and incorrect, then it's from myself. And Allah and His Messenger have nothing to do with it. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad jazakumullahu khairan.